Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm going to be comparing side by side the Pandemic Hot Zone North America release that came out some time ago with the newer Pandemic Hot Zone Europe release that just came out when this video is going up. It's just about now coming out. And they are standalone games. You can mix some of the things from the two, but each one gives you basically a reduced, smaller, quicker, simpler version of Pandemic. So we're going to go ahead and show you a couple of things. The main things I'm going to be comparing here are the boards. So I'm going to show you both of the boards. So there's really very few differences there besides, well, the fact that the names are different and the sort of the dots on the board are laid out in a different way. We're going to be looking at the characters. We're going to be looking at the events that are included, and then the small variant that each one throws into the box that you may add in to increase the difficulty and just the variability of what's going on, okay? So we got the two boxes here. Let's go ahead and look at the boards. Here we've got the North American board. As you can see, all of the different locations. We have our starting center here in Atlanta, which is the one place you can go to find cures. You cannot build any more research stations in this game. And a breakdown of the player turn order. The 3 outbreaks you may have, the 4th one means you lose the game. The 3 diseases you are trying to find cures for down here. So that's basically it. 3 groupings of colors. We do have Santo Domingo here, has a single way in and a single way out. So a couple of things like that you'll notice. And then we've got the other one right below this one. There we go. And very similar sort of idea. Lisboa being the one that's got a single way in, a single way out in this case. Same thing for the outbreaks. Same breakdown here of your turn, so that's identical. And pretty much everything else is more or less the same, except for, again, the connections and the arrangement of this. They are very, very similar. We do have the same number of cities on both of them. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in blue, in yellow, and in red. And that's true for both of them, okay? So let's go ahead and dive into some of the more interesting differences. We'll start with the characters in both. Each of the 2 sets comes with 4 characters. These are the North America characters, the European characters. They do have a little symbol in the corner, so it's easy to separate these. If you choose to use characters from one and the other, you can freely mix these. It doesn't affect anything. So that's one of the benefits of owning both, is you can shuffle all these characters up and then just give everyone one. So we've got over here North America, we got the Dispatcher, and these are some of the ones we've seen in Pandemic and some of the expansions to Pandemic, and they have some sort of modification. So we've got the Dispatcher here who can move other pawns and move a pawn to a connected city, things like that. So very much about mobility on the board. We've got the Medic who is able to treat more effectively. We've got the Generalist, which is a character that will give you 5 actions each turn instead of having 4. Very good. I like that one. It's just very simple and easy to deal with. And then we got the Researcher here, who is going to allow players to get the cards they need without making, getting around some of the limitations of sharing knowledge, of passing cards from one player to another one. All excellent, all very useful. I assume that the character that lets you cure for 1 card less, which is not available in either one of these, is simply too good to be played in this version, because you can find a cure with only 4 cards. Finding a cure with only 3 cards is just way too easy. So I assume unless they would change that one up in some other way, it just won't be included. All right. So we got those. And then over here, we've got the Containment Specialist. And every time they step into a city that has 2 or more cubes of the same color, you freely remove one. Virologist over here, when you discover a cure, you can replace 1 missing card with 2 other cards. So say 3 red and any 2 other. That'll do that trick. That'll cure that. And then it also has an action down here. Once per turn, you can remove 1 cube matching a color of a card in your hand from anywhere. That's, I think, new, and that's pretty cool. Quarantine Specialist over here, whenever you're adding cubes to the board, you will never place something in the spot that the Quarantine Specialist is in, or any one spot attached to that with a line. which is pretty powerful, especially in this game, because the board is smaller. So this one feels like it got a nice boost in this game. It was always an interesting character. I do like it. But in the original Pandemic, the board is so much bigger that it's limited. Its range just feels a little bit more limited. In this one, it seems like it works all the time. It's great, especially when you more or less know what's coming up. If those things are near each other, you will do some neutralization for sure. So very good. And then the pilot over here that lets you, whenever you move, you can basically skip a city in between and move two. So very good for mobility. You can also take one pawn with you. As you can probably tell, generally speaking, the 4 new ones are a little more complex. They have a little more text. They're just a little bit trickier. Like the Quarantine Specialist, you need to make sure you're being vigilant so you don't miss a placement when there shouldn't be one. And in the original one here, Medic and Generalist are both extremely simple, right? They're powerful, but they are a little more simple than some of these other ones over here. So there you go. That's all the characters. Again, you can mix and match these however you want to. Let's go ahead and take a look at the events that come included in these games because they are different in both. And again, you can combine those events. Starting with the North America events, we've got here Remote Treatment that lets you remove any 2 cubes from the board back to the supply. We've got an Airlift that will move a pawn anywhere on the board. One Quiet Night where you can skip drawing infection cards for 1 go. And then Borrowed Time that gives you, whoever you play it, they have 2 extra actions for that turn. Very good, powerful, straightforward stuff. Over here we've got the Europe ones, and for the most part, still very simple, straightforward. We've got this turn, remove 1 cube from every city that you enter. So that is Mobile Hospital. So, you can basically, that turn, you'll probably just go move, 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 move. Do that 4 times. Take 1 from each place you visited. Very powerful card. Especially situationally, extremely powerful. If you've got places that are full up and they're connected, this is a fantastic card to deal with that. We've got Call to Mobilize, which I don't remember from Pandemic or one of the expansions, but maybe I'm wrong. So this one lets every player immediately do up to 2 drive or ferry actions, basically moving along a line. So I don't recall that one. It's very interesting, and it could definitely save you some actions, but you have to know what you intend to do all around the table. Like everybody needs to have a plan, and you hope that that plan doesn't now involve you being somewhere else. So that one's interesting. It's probably my least favorite of all these, actually. Forecast, a classic, lets you look at, rearrange, and put back on top the top 6 cards from the infection deck. And then Resource Planning down here lets you do the same thing, but for the player cards. So look at, rearrange, and return the top 4 cards from the player deck. And that's, of course, going to let you know, I should be drawing more blue cards. I need more blue cards. Let me look at the top 4. There's a blue card. I'll move that to the top. There's a bad card. I'll move that to the bottom, that sort of thing. So there you go. Good spread here. I like that some of these classics like Forecast, they held back to include in the Europe set of the game, where it could have easily been in this one here. And now you have access to, if you have both of these, which are a 1-2 punch, right? You can do a Forecast, see what's coming up, and then One Quiet Night that, so that you can delay it. Those are both very powerful. They often work in combination there, in sync. They're both solid sets. I happily shuffle all these together and just pick 4 to include in the game. And if you want to make the game, if you're having trouble with the game, and you want to make it even easier, you could even unofficially, you could shuffle all these and maybe put in 5 of these event cards. That'll make the game a little bit easier on you. You'll have more special abilities and hopefully help you win the game if you're having trouble with that. So the final thing we're going to look at here is the small included variant in each of the 2 boxes. Let's take a look at that. So first of all, both of these variants structurally work the same way. You choose if you're going to include it, and then you shuffle up the respective decks and shuffle in one unseen from the deck into each part of the combined player deck. Just like after you've dealt out player cards and then you're preparing the player deck, you split it up into 3 even pieces and you shuffle an epidemic card into each. Well, now you also shuffle in one of these. Or, if you want to make it more difficult, you can shuffle in 2 of these randomly. So we've got from the North America set these crisis cards. Very straightforward. You draw one, it does something bad, then you discard it, and you're done dealing with that thing. And we've got here a 7, I believe, is the total amount that you get. So we've got contamination here. Choose a pawn and check the color of their city. Place 1 cube of that color on each connected city. Okay. Planes grounded. Players cannot do the direct flight or the charter flight. And then whenever the next crisis card shows up, you'll discard this one. So this will stick around. Sanitation failure here. Advance the infection rate marker unless it's already maxed out. There you go. Very simple. Pretty forgiving, actually, usually. The logistics failure here makes you resolve the draw infection cards twice during that turn. Not great. Hot spot here. Draw the bottom card of the infection deck and place 3 cubes there. Then discard that card. And then once you get an epidemic, this will happen again, unfortunately. We've got unacceptable losses here. Draw from the bottom of the deck. Again, same thing. You are going to return that infection card and 3 cubes of the matching color to the box. So you have less room for allowing these cubes to build up on the board, is what that does. And then limited options here. You reduce the player's hands to 5 cards. And again, this sticks around for a while. So there you go. That's what those do. And then over here, we've got the ones from Europe. There are more cards in this one, but technically there's really fewer different ones because you've got this one called Resistant to Treatment in the 3 different colors. We've got Highly Contagious in the 3 different colors. And then we've got here Asymptomatic Carriers in the 3 different colors. So what do these do? Well, again, you shuffle them up into the deck, same deal. When one gets drawn, unless that disease color has already been cured, you're going to set this aside and keep referring to it. And they make that thing harder to deal with. It propagates more, it's harder to treat, etc. It does one of those things. So I'm just going to show you the yellow ones, but again, all 3 colors say the same thing, just using the correct color when appropriate, all right? So we've got here Resistant to Treatment says if there are 3 yellow cubes on a city, then you have to spend 2 actions at the same time to treat disease there. It's harder to get rid of one when all 3 are sitting there, all right? We've got Highly Contagious here during the draw infection card step. Draw 1 additional one if the player whose turn it is has 2 or more yellow cards in their hand. And same thing for red, same thing for blue. And then Asymptomatic Carriers here, whenever a yellow infection card is drawn, to place a single cube somewhere that has none, you add 2 right away instead of just 1. The thing about these is it's a little less predictable sometimes, right? You might end up with all 3 cards you shuffled in affecting the same color. You might have one show up to a disease that's already been cured, and at that point you can just discard it. Nothing happens. It doesn't do anything. So it's interesting. They are meant to stay around, but if you cure something, that will no longer be a problem, and it just goes away. I think side by side, and again, you could, I think unofficially, but maybe officially, you could combine all these things, right? You could, which is what I've done actually, shuffle all these cards together, and then I just put in 1 in each of those parts of the deck, or 2 if I'm really, if I really want to make the game challenging. And then some will be mutations, some will be crisis cards. You're never sure where you're going to get that way. I think I like the crisis cards a little bit better myself. I like the idea of there being just more variety, right? There's 7 different things. You don't really know what you're going to get. With this one, the color it affects will be different, but it's one of 3 things. That's it. So my favorite way to include this is probably the combination, but if I only had to pick one, I think I like the Crisis cards a little bit better. So there you go. Those are basically all the differences that you're going to find from Hot Zone Europe to Hot Zone North America. And there is also, if you go onto their website, a way you can play in which two players will each use an entire board and 3 characters, each player controlling 3 characters, and cooperate on curing all the diseases across both of those boards. So that's something you can explore as well just by going to the Z-Man Games website. So there you go, everybody. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what comes in each. It helps you decide if you only want to pick one up, or maybe you already own one. You want to decide if the second one adds enough for you to go ahead and pick that one up also. I like them both about the same, really. So either, if you feel like enhancing the one you've already got, go ahead and pick up the other one. And if not, then hopefully this, again, helps you decide which one is the one for you to go ahead and grab and begin with. That's going to do it for me. My name is Z Garcia, everyone. I will see you on the next one.